Hey everyone, welcome back to the Life and Language podcast channel. I'm Ben. I've been in a pretty good mood today, which honestly doesn't happen every Monday, so let's enjoy it. Here's something I want you to think about for a second. Have you ever told a joke and thought, wait, is this too silly? Too weird, too embarrassing to say out loud? I think most of us have been there, but here's the thing. People have been telling jokes for thousands of years, and I mean thousands. The oldest recorded jokes in human history are still sitting in museums right now, written on clay tablets, which raises a kind of wild question. Were people funnier back then, or are we all just repeating the same stuff? Alright, before we go any further, I want to kick things off with a question. And I want you to actually think about your answer before I reveal it later in the episode. Ready, here it is, the world's oldest recorded joke, discovered in ancient Mesopotamia, in what is now the country of Iraq, is about which topic? Is it A farmer and a broken plow, B, a woman and her husband, or C, a king who lost his sandal? So, is it A, B, or C? I'll be honest, my gut is telling me B. I feel like relationship humor is just timeless. But we'll find out together in a little while. So let's get into this properly. Archaeologists. These are scientists who dig up and study objects from the past. Have found jokes written in ancient Sumerian, which is one of the oldest written languages we know of, dating back to around 1900 BCE. That's nearly 4,000 years ago. And what's genuinely surprising is that some of these jokes still make sense today. They're not perfect, and some of the references are a little lost on us. But the basic structure, the setup, the twist, the punchline, it's all there. Now, a punchline is the final part of a joke that makes it funny. It's the moment you've been building toward. And ancient joke writers understood this completely. They knew that humor requires timing, surprise, and a shared understanding between the person telling the joke and the person hearing it. That shared understanding is called context. And it's absolutely central to why jokes work or why they fall flat. The ancient Sumerians also wrote jokes about everyday life. Things like work, food, marriage, and bodily functions. And yes, some of the oldest recorded jokes are actually quite crude. Historians use the word ribald to describe this type of humor. Ribald means dealing with rude or sexual topics in a playful, light-hearted way. So when people say humor has changed completely over thousands of years, they might want to reconsider. The ribald joke is as old as writing itself. I asked a few people what they think about the idea of ancient humor. Here's what they told me. The first person said, honestly, it makes me feel connected somehow. Like, this person who lived thousands of years ago thought the same things were funny that I do. That's kind of beautiful. The second person had a different reaction. I actually read one of those ancient jokes online and I didn't laugh at all. Maybe you need to be living in that time period to get it. Humor is so tied to culture. And the third person said, what strikes me is that they were joking at all. They had hard lives. No running water, no electricity. And they still took the time to be funny. I think that says a lot about people. Those are three really different reactions, and I love that. Because they each point to something worth exploring. Let's go a little deeper. Researchers who study humor have identified something they call the incongruity theory of comedy. And incongruity is a key word here. Incongruity means a situation where two things don't match. Where something unexpected appears in a familiar setting. When your brain expects one thing and gets something completely different. That gap creates laughter. Ancient joke writers were doing exactly this, even without a name for it. There's also the idea of universality in humor. Universality means the quality of applying to everyone, everywhere, regardless of time or place. And the evidence from ancient jokes suggests that at least some forms of comedy are universal. The embarrassing situation, the person who thinks they're clever but isn't. The reversal of expectations. These themes show up in Sumerian jokes, in ancient Egyptian wit, in Greek comedy. And they show up in stand-up specials on streaming platforms today. But here's the twist. Not everything translates. Some ancient jokes rely on specific cultural references, a particular god, a local custom, a political figure. That simply don't mean anything to a modern reader. This is what linguists call culture-bound humor. And it's a reminder that while we share a lot with our ancestors, we're also products of our own specific time and place. A linguist, by the way, is someone who scientifically studies language. how it works, how it changes, and how people use it. So what does all of this tell us about human nature? I think the fact that we've been making jokes for nearly 4,000 years, maybe much longer, since most ancient humor was probably spoken, not written, suggests that laughter is not a luxury. It's not something we only do when life is easy. It's something we reach for especially when life is hard. Those ancient Sumerians were dealing with drought, warfare, disease, and uncertainty. And they still made time for a good joke. That feels important. Before we wrap up, let's quickly go through today's words, one by one, so they really stick. First, archaeologists. The archaeologists who found these jokes had to carefully piece together broken clay tablets to read them. Next, punchline. The punchline of the ancient Sumerian joke reportedly made scholars laugh out loud when they first translated it. Then, context. Without knowing the context of ancient life, some jokes from 4,000 years ago are impossible to understand. After that, ribald. Some people are surprised to learn that ribald humor, rude, cheeky jokes, has existed since the very beginning of recorded writing. Then incongruity. The incongruity between what we expect a joke to say and what it actually says is exactly what produces laughter. And universality. The universality of certain types of humor, like jokes about embarrassment, suggests that human emotions haven't changed that much. And finally, linguist. A linguist studying ancient texts might spend years learning a dead language just to understand a single joke. Alright, quiz time. The world's oldest recorded joke, from ancient Sumeria, is about which topic? I guess be a woman and her husband. And actually, I was right, well, sort of. The joke is widely described as being about a woman who had never sat on her husband's lap. It's a little hard to translate cleanly, but the relationship angle is definitely there. So I'll take it, half marks for my instincts. Here's the takeaway I want to leave you with today. The next time you laugh at something silly, a bad pun, a weird situation, a joke that really shouldn't be funny but is, remember that somewhere, 4,000 years ago, another person had exactly the same reaction. Laughter is one of the oldest things we share as a species. And that's honestly pretty wonderful. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed the episode, hit subscribe and comment practice and I'll reply with today's phrase. Take care, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.